Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, here to preview the weekend matches ahead of the full card of Premiership games. 4 on the Saturday, 2 on the Sunday. A bit of an odd one on the Sunday as well in terms of kick-off time, but nonetheless, apart from that, a fairly standard Scottish Premiership card with plenty of intriguing matches on the way. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we would appreciate you doing that. Got an exclusive coming next week, recorded with former St Johnstone right back in Millwall and full back at present. Just signed a new deal at the Den, Danny McNamara, ahead of the League Cup final between St Johnstone and Livingston. We'll have plenty of build-up and interviews and stuff ahead of that one. So do check that out as it comes out on our site and on YouTube and our socials. To get into the Premiership action, 4 games on the Saturday, as already mentioned. We'll go through them first. Aberdeen v Kilmarnock, Hibs versus Hamilton, Motherwell v St Johnstone, and St Mirren v Livingston. We will be at 3 of those, not including the match at Pittodrie, which we'll start with in our analysis. This one, in terms of goals, to be fair, I mean, when you look at these sides, Aberdeen are currently on a club worst in terms of goals scored. They haven't scored in 6, which is a club record. They've never gone that long without a goal in their history, whereas Kilmarnock haven't scored in 6 of their last 7 matches. This would sort of tell us that this is bound for a 0-0, but knowing how Scottish football is, this will end up 2 each or 3 each or something silly. It was a year ago, I remember being at Kilmarnock 3, Aberdeen 4 in the Scottish Cup. I can mind as Aberdeen went to score their 4th as they were going up the park. They'd scored the 3rd, but my train was was due at Kilmarnock train station, so it was either see the last 5 minutes in post-match interviews or get stuck in Kilmarnock or get home that night. So I opted to try and get home. And as I went to turn around and walk out the press box, I just heard all the Aberdeen fans going up and roar as the 7th goal of the night went in on a bonkers night of football, probably one of the last brilliant nights of Scottish football before the shutdown last year. But nevertheless, and me reminiscing down memory lane in terms of this one, I'm reflecting on previous exciting encounters, because even though the weird world, the Scottish football sometimes throws up weird results like this, and this will be 2 each, 3 each, 4-3 again to one of the 2 teams. It just looks like 0-0. Both sides look so short on firepower. I've watched both of them live in recent weeks and they just don't look like scoring. Both teams look like they're lacking a bit of confidence, albeit at different ends of the table, different objectives. Aberdeen are chasing down Hibs in 3rd, or 4 points behind. Hibs have Hamilton at home, in which Hibs will be strong favourites for, despite Hamilton's form. So if Aberdeen do even drop 2 points in this, Hibs could extend that gap further to 6 points. And with the way Aberdeen are playing at present, Hibs starting to hit a wee bit of form as well, that would look a really tough gap to bridge, obviously, with one game. They will finish in the top 6, but with those teams to play each other, that could become a bit of a tough task for Aberdeen, whereas Kilmarnock, their situation perhaps a bit more dire. Down the bottom of the league, Hamilton below them, they're joint points with the Accies. Ross County 1 point below them as well, bottom. So Kilmarnock are only off the bottom by a point. So even any points really, but they need to be getting a win as well. So an intriguing tie this, to see if anybody can eventually hit the net and what is much needed goals for both sides. Hibs Hamilton, this one, obviously the big headlines with Hibs going into this one is Scott Allan. He was sidelined for 5 months this season with a mysterious illness. It was never really confirmed what the problem was, but he made his return in the League Cup semi-final last month. He'd have hoped for better circumstances, but it was an emotional return nonetheless, as it came to light the day that he had been diagnosed with a heart condition, something that's affected previous footballers in the past, and it's had fatal consequences in some instances. Really serious condition, but thankfully Scott Allan only has a mild form of it. There was talks of perhaps his career being stalled, or perhaps completely he'd have to retire completely, but he is back playing and he is in Jack Ross's plans, and Jack Ross is just happy to see Scott Allan back after an emotional ride over the last sort of 5-6 months.
Well, I think as he's spoken about obviously today, the range of emotions that he's had to endure over the last few months, I think that And I think there is a separation between the personal aspect of that and the professional part of it. So I think personally, first and foremost, difficult period, how you see your future and your family's future, etc. And then obviously the impact it has upon you doing the job that all players love to do. So I think we as a club have done well in our support. We've given him, I think medically, and the advice and the information and expertise he's been offered to allow him to return to training and play has been good. I think from a staff point of view, in terms of keeping him engaged with us through that period and keeping him busy, I think that helped him as well. And thankfully now we're in a place whereby he's been part of the squad for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, which is great for him first and foremost. So a real challenging period for him, and I think the fact that he's spoken so candidly about it today, with I think above and beyond, is to try and raise that awareness of the importance of continuing to be screened properly. I know there's an onus on us to do it as clubs, and that has changed significantly in recent times. But I think it's just that increased awareness again and the importance of players making sure they buy into that screening process as well.
For Hamilton going into this one, they're on decent form. Hamilton, it's Hamilton's season, I think, is what I call it anyway. This is the point in the season where just when Accies are done, just when you think they're down the bottom, they're stuck down there, they just start grinding out results. A 1-1 draw with Rangers was a decent point for them. They smashed Hamilton, Motherwell in the derby 4-1, and then they got a point away to St Mirren. And the way they're playing now, I mean, Ross Callaghan's in great form. Bruce Anderson's been an immense signing for them, 2 goals and 2 assists since joining, ironically, from Aberdeen. Aberdeen fans perhaps wondering why a free scoring striker under their employment is scoring for another Premiership club, but nonetheless, Hakeem Adolfin, amazing for them as well recently. He's been really strong for them this season, even despite their position. But Hamilton always do this. We shouldn't be surprised by this stage, but we always are. They always look done, and then they come back. It's incredible it's a testament to Brian Rice and his group of players that they manage to do this every season with different players in and about squad due to the turnover that's usually having to happen at provincial clubs like Hamilton. They continue to do the business, and it was a 1-1 draw for them on Wednesday away to St Mirren, one of their games in hand that moves them off bottom of the league. And we heard from Brian Rice at the end of that one as he talked up Bruce Anderson after another goal following his lone move from the Dons.
I think a point was deserved. The win was a major factor, especially first half. St Mirren were hemming and hawing a little bit with the wind behind them. In second half, I think we hemmed in for a spell as well. So, it was a good, honest battle. 2 honest teams fighting for the win. Both teams going for the win. So, I don't think anybody can complain tonight. Well, when we go 1-0 down in the position we're in, to fight back and get the goal, and we were still on the front foot trying to win the game. It's a good point for us. Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I'm very, very grateful to Aberdeen for allowing it to come out in the first place, and I've spoke to Derek about it, and I thanked him. But he's come here, and he's formed a nice wee partnership with Maris that I've spoken about a couple of times now, and he's enjoying his football. He's 22-year-old. He just wants to be playing regular, and at Aberdeen, it's a really good squad they've got, and he doesn't get that much regular starting games. So I think he's just really enjoying being part of the first team squad where he feels as though he's got to be playing most of the games, so I'm delighted with him.
Motherwell versus St Johnstone at Fir Park. This is one I'll be at. Motherwell need a response, I think it would be fair to say, after getting mauled really in the derby 4-1. They did play the majority of the game with 10 men. Barry Maguire was off for a large spell in the first half with a bloody nose, and then Stephen O'Donnell was sent off 20 minutes in. So they did play a lot of that game with 10 men, but at the end of the day, a 4-1 defeat at home to their rivals who have now won 4 of the last 5 large derbies, did hurt the fan base quite considerably. And they come up against a St Johnstone team in good form, only lost to Celtic and Rangers in their last 10 and 11 matches. We got a League Cup final next weekend to look forward to, so every player will be using this as their last chance in a game type situation to try and stay there playing for a starting spot at Hampden, what could be a historic day for the Saints. But Motherwell manager Graham Alexander and Saints boss Callum Davidson go back to their days at Preston North End, where they were teammates, roommates, head tennis competitors, all of that. But Motherwell manager Graham Alexander says there'll be no love lost on the touchline when the two go head to head on Saturday.
Yeah, look, we've tried to assess the result and the performance last week, which we do regardless of the result. We always have a bit of feedback in the debrief, which I think is important. But we never dwell on things for too long, whether negative or positive. We deal with them, and then we look to the future, and the future's this week's game. Well, I didn't plan on having any contact because he is a close friend of mine. We speak quite often over the years, and I've known him 20 years. But I went to watch St Mirren the other day, and we bumped into each other in the car park walking to the game. So and we were sat 5 seats away. So yeah, we had a chat about things that have gone on previous, but nothing towards Saturday's game. And I think we're both competitive professionals that we have spent a lot of time together over the years. We were roommates, so we've competed against each other in other aspects like head tennis and pool and stuff like that over the years, being friends. And believe me, we both wanted to beat each other then, so I don't think tomorrow will be any different.
And finally, on the Saturday, it's St Mirren versus Livingston. Livingston in the same boat as St Johnstone, looking to cement sort of claims in the starting 11 for next week's League Cup final. Livingston, slight dip, but I mean, we can excuse them for that after winning pretty much every game since Davy Martindale's take over as manager. They were beaten by St Johnstone in West Lothian before they were then beaten by Dundee United 3-0. So, yeah, they've a couple of sticky results, but yeah, if you'd have told them they'd only have lost 2 in 14 or 15 matches, I'm sure they would have taken that with both hands. And against this St Mirren side who do not need to go searching for injuries, Jake Doyle-Hayes, Jamie McGrath, Colin Quainer, Eamon Brophy, Christian Dennis are just a few of the names out for the Buddies. But there is good news. Jim Goodwin has confirmed that some of those injuries aren't as serious as first year, particularly Jamie McGrath's and Jake Doyle-Hayes'.
No operations, but still, a little bit of time out for the likes of Doyle-Hayes and McGrath. Colin Quainer is getting closer, and we're hoping that Colin will join back in with the group on Monday. So that's one positive that we have to look forward to. But I'm glad to say that Jamie McGrath's shoulder doesn't need surgery, and neither does Jake Doyle-Hayes' foot. So it's just a waiting game now with those two to see how they progress and see if the pain wears off, and hopefully it becomes manageable at some point where we can get them back on the park. Well, listen, I would love to say yes, but it's really a little bit up in the air at the moment. Jamie is probably a little bit closer, I would say, than what Doyle-Hayes is at the moment. We're trying to come up with a plan to see if we can stabilise Jamie's shoulder and try and get him on the pitch. But, we won't be able to do that until the swelling and the damage around the ligaments and what have you goes down. So it's just a time one, really, in terms, some people heal a lot quicker than others, and we just need to wait and see what happens. We'll assess it better at the beginning of next week and hopefully, have at least one of them back for a couple of the games prior to the split.
Sunday, it's Rangers v Dundee United. Dundee United, again, another team starting to hit a wee bit of form. It sort of is the case in the league this year with sort of teams outside of, Rangers, really. I mean, we can even throw Celtic into that boat if you want. But you sort of go on a run of maybe 5 or 6 without a victory, and then you go on and you go 5 or 6 winning runs or sort of undefeated runs here and there. And that's what Dundee United have done. Few really bad results. I mean, 5-1 defeat at home at St Mirren, 2-1 away defeat to Motherwell, and sandwiched in between that was a 2-0 home loss to Hibs. So wasn't on great form. But they've picked up now, 2-0 win over Ross County away a couple of weekends ago. Then the brilliant 3-0 victory over Livingston last weekend. Lawrence Shanklin looks back to his best after getting service. Who knew if you gave a clinical striker service inside the box, they would score goals? And that's what he's missed this season. There's no doubt Lawrence Shanklin is a good striker. You don't score 60 plus goals. I know it's only, I say only, but it's in the Championship, and folk will say it's only the Championship, it's only League One, but clearly a clinical striker in there, and he's starting to prove that and stake his claim perhaps to retain his spot in the Scotland side come March when the World Cup qualifiers kick off. But they'll know this is a tough ask for Dundee United to continue that one. Rangers dominant at home, particularly this season, but overall just really impressive as they march towards the title. They're only a couple of home wins anyway off that. I think a few, 3 or 4 in total off the league title. So they'll be looking to just continue marching, although they have got injury problems heading into this one. Captain James Tavernier won't play. Key striker Kamal Roof won't feature. So, yeah, who knows? Dundee United might fancy themselves to be the first team to beat Rangers at Ibrox domestically this season. And then in the weird kick-off, Ross County v Celtic is a 7:30 kick-off in Dingwall on Sunday night. I don't know who decided that, but a bit of a strange one. Ross County won't matter what time they're playing at. They need 3 points all the same, whether it's 7:30 in the morning or 7:30 at night. They had a game called off last weekend against Hibs due to the snow, but they're back in action this weekend. Tough ask for them to get points, but they have beaten Celtic once this season. Obviously, the now famous 2-0 victory in the League Cup that ended Celtic's domestic dominance in Scotland. But this will be a tough task for the Staggies. John Hughes took over as Ross County Boston's first game was against Celtic, so this will perhaps be a barometer of how far they've came in that spell. I think it's been 10 games now he's been in charge, so interested to see how they do. They need points. It's a little cliche, every game's crucial for them, but you're sort of starting to see maybe the bottom 4, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Hamilton and Ross County. St Johnstone are on 30 points as well, but I think they've perhaps shown enough that they won't be in any bother come the end of the season. But Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Hamilton and Ross County are probably the teams you look at as the teams who still need a wee bit of work, particularly in some of these teams' cases, to get away from the relegation danger and to safety. And obviously the big one in there just now is Ross County, who currently sit at the bottom of the table. But John Hughes has got them believing again. He has got them believing that at least in every game, if they impose their own style, then they can always cause teams problems. And then after that, it's not easy, but St Mirren away, Kilmarnock at home, which is a huge match, and then St Johnstone away. So, yeah, they're not having... Well, we've got the rearranged game against Hibs, but there's not a lot of top 6 teams to play in there, albeit St Mirren away could be a tricky one, and St Johnstone if they are on a high after the League Cup final. So that's all we've got time for on this preview. Hope you have enjoyed. Do remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And until next time, take it easy.